The moment I walked through those doors, I saw it. My stepmother's smile froze. My father's jaw clenched. And my brother Marcus? He actually laughed out loud. "Look what crawled back," Kelly said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I hadn't been home in 8 years. Not since the night my father told me I was dead to this family for choosing a government job over his company. Now here I was, standing in the marble lobby of the Harrison estate, wearing all black, carrying nothing but a small bag. Inside that bag, my Department of Defense credentials and a classified file that could destroy everything they'd built. But they didn't ask why I came back. They didn't ask how I'd been." Kelly handed me a serving tray. "Since you're here, make yourself useful," she said flatly. And I smiled, because they had absolutely no idea what was about to hit them. If you think handing me that tray was humiliating, wait until you see what I was really there to do. My name is Mara Harrison. And in my family, I was always the disappointment. Not because I failed, not because I was lazy, but because I refused to be their puppet. I graduated valedictorian, early acceptance to Harvard, full scholarship to MIT. My father used to brag about me at country club dinners. "That's my Mara," he'd say, "sharpest mind in 3 counties. That ended the day I told him I was turning down his executive training program at Harrison Cybersecurity to accept a classified position with the Department of Defense. The silence at dinner that night was louder than any argument. By morning, my belongings were in boxes on the driveway. My father stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "If you walk out that door, Mara, you're no longer my daughter." I was 24 years old. I walked out. I didn't look back. Until today, the estate looked exactly the same. Too big, too polished, too empty. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors. Original art worth more than most people's houses. Guests in designer suits mingled under soft lighting, sipping champagne, talking about money they didn't earn and power they didn't deserve. At the center of the grand hall stood a massive display, a 3D model of Harrison Cybersecurity's newest project. Project Sentinel. A $400 million government contract for national infrastructure defense. Marcus stood beside it, playing the golden boy role perfectly. 32 years old. Handsome in a boring trust fund way. MBA from Wharton that daddy paid for? He'd followed the script flawlessly. Internship at Harrison Cyber, VP at 28, Executive Director at 30. Tonight he was being introduced to investors as the future of the company. What they didn't know, I was the federal agent assigned to audit that contract, and I'd found problems. Big ones. "Excuse me, miss." A man in a tuxedo waved his empty glass at me like I was furniture. I took it, replaced it, smiled politely. He didn't recognize me. Most of them didn't. But the ones who did, the family friends, the old business partners, they didn't offer hugs. They offered whispers. "She works for the government now, right? I heard she couldn't hack it in the private sector." Poor Richard. So much potential, completely wasted. I kept moving. Because I wasn't here for them. I was here for the truth. Then he walked in. The room shifted instantly. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. People straightened. General Nathan Cross, Secretary of Defense. 4-star legend. My father practically sprinted across the room. "General Cross!" Richard beamed. "What an honor. Let me introduce my son, Marcus Harrison, lead architect on Project Sentinel." Cross shook Marcus's hand politely. "I've heard the name." Then his eyes scanned the room. And landed on me. His eyebrows shot up. Then he smiled. A real one. He started walking. Past the champagne, past the investors. Straight toward me. "Agent Harrison," he said clearly, "didn't expect to see you here in person." My stepmother went rigid. My father blinked like someone had just rewritten reality. "General," he said slowly, "did you just say agent?" Cross extended his hand to me, not to take the tray, to shake my hand. "I've read your intelligence briefs," he said. "Your work on the Vienna Breach Protocol was exceptional. Changed how we approach cyber warfare doctrine." I smiled calmly. "Appreciate that, sir. Thought I'd make an in-person visit before tomorrow's security review." He laughed warmly. "A damn effective one." By now, the entire room had gone silent. My father's face cycled through confusion, shock, and pure horror. Kelly looked like she'd swallowed glass. "Mara," my father said, voice cracking. You're You're the federal agent they sent? Yes, I said. Technically, I'm the one deciding whether this contract moves forward, but tonight, I'm just here to observe. I handed the tray to a nearby server and stepped forward. Not behind the guests. Not beneath anyone. Eye level. Unflinching. Undeniable. Game on. They thought I came back broken. I came back holding all the cards, and they were about to find out exactly what that meant. They didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. Not my father. Not Kelly. Not Marcus. After General Cross called me Agent Harrison, it was like someone had detonated a silence bomb. People whispered, stared. Some looked impressed. Others looked terrified, like they'd been talking trash about a federal agent and just realized it. I didn't mind. Fear was more useful than approval. I drifted toward the fireplace, letting the classical music drown out the chaos in my head, because standing there, watching my father's face collapse, should have felt like victory. But it didn't. Behind the satisfaction was something raw, a voice that still echoed, "If you walk out, you're no longer my daughter." I was 24, top of my class at MIT, 3 Fortune 500 offers, 2 Ivy League PhD acceptances, and a letter from the Department of Defense. A recruiter had approached me quietly after I presented my thesis on AI-driven threat detection. 4 interviews, 3 background checks. Psychological evaluation. Then, an offer for a rotation in the NSA's Cyber Command Division. I said yes. My father said nothing at first, just silence. Then scotch. Then one sentence. "You're making a very expensive mistake." I tried to explain. That I wanted my own path. That public service meant something to me. That I wasn't running from success, I was running toward impact. He didn't care. "You want to be a government spy in a basement?" he spat. "You think this is noble? It's pathetic. It's for people who can't handle the real world." Kelly piled on. "She's just doing this for attention. If we hadn't praised Marcus so much, maybe she wouldn't need to self-destruct." They argued for hours. Then came the ultimatum. "You want to work for shadow people? Fine. Be one. Get out of this house and don't come back." I packed that night. No one said goodbye. Marcus passed me in the hallway the next morning and shrugged. Guess not everyone's cut out for success. I lived above a laundromat for 2 years. Worked night shifts. Ate ramen. Got screamed at by supervisors who didn't care about my MIT degree, and I never looked back. Until tonight. What they didn't know, I'd been investigating them for months. And what I found could end everything. The next morning, I arrived at Harrison Cybersecurity at 7:30 a.m. No fanfare. Just a black government SUV, my laptop, and a security clearance that opened every door. The receptionist's face went pale when she saw my badge. "Agent Harrison!" We weren't expecting you this early." "That's the point," I said. "Take me to the systems floor, now." Floor 9, the heart of the operation, where the code lived, where vulnerabilities could cost lives. A young engineer named Sam met me at the server room door. He looked nervous. "You're? Her." "I'm me," I replied. "You're Sam Chen, lead engineer on network segmentation. Walk me through your security architecture, from base layer to threat response." He swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am." We entered the main server hub. He started explaining firewall clusters, encryption protocols, threat detection algorithms. His explanations were competent, but not confident. "You didn't build this from scratch, did you?" I asked. He hesitated. "No, most of it was pre-approved from executive level. Marcus wanted it deployed fast to meet contract deadlines." I stopped walking. "He fast-tracked encryption without final security testing?" Sam grimaced. I wasn't supposed to say that. There it was, corner cutting. The kind that looks efficient to investors, but catastrophic to national security. "How many people on this floor know the full threat response architecture?" I asked. "Just me and Dr. Patel. But she quit last month." I wrote that down. "Send me all code commit logs for the last 6 weeks. And Sam? I need Marcus Harrison's admin credentials suspended, effective immediately." His eyes widened. "You want me to lock out the CEO?" I want you to follow federal audit protocol, I said calmly, which means no executive override during active reviews. He nodded. Yes, ma'am. By 10:00 a.m., I'd flagged 4 critical vulnerabilities. 1. Unsecured API endpoints connected directly to core systems. 2. Outdated packet inspection, allowing breach signatures to slip through undetected. 3. A bizarre log deletion mechanism in the testing environment, maybe accidental, maybe not. 4. Root-level admin access given to non-technical executives, including Marcus. Any one of these was a red flag. All 4 together? Grounds for contract suspension. I sat at a terminal and opened a classified report file. Harrison Sentinel, Security Review, Level Omega. That's where my real work began. An hour later, the door hissed open. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Marcus. Well, you've made yourself comfortable. You made it easy. You locked me out of my own system. I followed federal protocol. You'd know that if you'd read the compliance documents you signed. He walked closer. You're not seriously going to kill this deal over a few bugs. I turned to face him. Marcus, this isn't about bugs. This is about an infrastructure you launched prematurely without penetration testing, with active vulnerabilities, and with executive access that violates every security standard we have. His face went pale. That's dramatic. No, I said. That's forensic. He tried to regroup. Look, I made aggressive calls. That's how innovation works. So audit it, fix it, but don't bury us. I stared at him. I don't want to bury Harrison Cyber, but I won't let it compromise national defense either. This isn't your internship, Marcus. This is real. He said nothing, just turned and left, and I went back to work. By the end of the day, I had enough evidence to shut down the entire contract. But what happened at the board meeting changed everything. The conference room was all glass and steel and ego. Long table, leather chairs, a wall-sized screen ready for Marcus's presentation. Everything looked perfect, except the code. I sat at the far end. Federal Observer. Neutral. Silent. No one offered me coffee. No one asked if I needed anything. They knew who I was now. They just didn't know what I'd do. Marcus entered 20 minutes late, flanked by assistants who looked terrified. He gave me a tight smile, then launched into his pitch. Slides flashed. Charts. Projections. Buzzwords like paradigm shift and next generation defense. I took notes. Watched how his voice trembled every time I wrote something down. Watched my father glance at me like I might pull a grenade pin. Then Marcus finished. Polite applause. General Cross turned to me. Agent Harrison, your assessment? I stood, plugged in my laptop. The screen changed from Marcus's flashy graphics to a stark black screen with a DoD seal. Over the past 72 hours, I began, my team conducted a Level Omega security audit of Harrison Cybersecurity's infrastructure. Silence. We found 4 Category Red vulnerabilities. Any one of them disqualifies this partnership under federal law. All 4 together suggest failure in executive oversight. I clicked the remote. Slide 1, breach simulation time, 11.2 seconds. Slide 2, packet inspection failure rate, 64%. Slide 3, unauthorized admin access, 7 executives. Slide 4, log tampering evidence, inconclusive but suspicious. These flaws, I said calmly, could allow a mid-level hacker to infiltrate national defense systems through your platform. General Cross looked grim. Marcus tried to speak. These are temporary. They've existed for 4 production cycles, I cut in, and you deployed anyway. I clicked again. Access logs. Marcus Harrison. Override signatures. Time-stamped. The room went silent. You disabled safety protocols to meet deadlines, I said. That's not innovation. That's negligence. I turned to General Cross. I'm recommending immediate freeze of contract integration pending third-party validation and executive restructuring. Marcus stood. You're destroying my career. I looked at him. You're lucky you still have one. General Cross spoke. I support the freeze. Agent Harrison's recommendation stands. My father shot up. General, surely. Cross raised a hand. This isn't negotiable, Richard. I've read her work for years. If Mara says this system isn't ready, it isn't. The meeting ended. Chairs scraped. People scattered. Only 3 of us remained, me, Marcus, and my father. My father looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, not as a failure, as something he never saw coming. "You're this powerful?" I didn't smile. "I didn't come back to be powerful, Dad. I came back to protect what matters, even if that means protecting it from you." And I walked out. They wanted me to fail. I succeeded. But the real confrontation was still coming. I found him in his study that night. Same leather chair, same scotch, same silence. Kelly was there too, wine glass dangling, looking like the world had just tilted. I closed the door. "You embarrassed me," my father said. "No," I replied. "You embarrassed yourself." I just turned on the lights. Kelly scoffed. "You think this is justice, humiliating your own brother?" I laughed quietly. "The kind that comes from old scars." "You gave me conditions, not love," I said. "There's a difference." My father stood. "You walked away." "No. You pushed me out because I wouldn't follow your script." I walked to the desk, placed both hands flat on the wood. "I didn't come back to punish anyone," I said, "but I also didn't come to apologize for becoming someone you didn't expect." Kelly stepped closer. "You think you're better than us because some general praised your little project?" I turned to her fully. "You mean the national encryption directive I wrote that protected U.S. infrastructure during the Atlantic breach? That project?" She went silent. My father sat back down. "I never hated your intelligence," he said quietly. "I hated how you used it to leave." That stopped me. "I didn't leave," I said softer. "You pushed. Every time I wanted something outside the family plan, you shut it down." He didn't deny it. "I never wanted to leave this family," I added, "but I wasn't going to shrink to fit your picture." He looked at his hands. Brandon wasn't ready. And now everyone knows. Then maybe they deserve to know. I turned toward the door. "There's one more thing," I said. "I'm recommending you replace Marcus as project lead. Not with me, I'm not staying, but with someone who earned it." His brow furrowed. "You want us to demote your brother?" "I want you to protect your legacy, because right now it's hanging by a thread." He was quiet for a long time. "What do you want, Mara?" I looked back one last time. I wanted a father who believed in who I was, not who he planned for me to be. Then I left. They thought I'd come back for revenge. I came back for something better, closure. I was unlocking my car when I heard footsteps. Marcus. No jacket. Just a dress shirt, sleeves rolled up like he was trying to look calm. "Running back to DC already?" "I'm not running," I said, "but I'm done here." He leaned against the car next to mine. "So that's it? You blow everything up and walk away like some hero?" "No. I walk away like someone who did her job." Silence. Then his voice dropped. "You think I never tried?" That caught me off guard. Tried to live up to him? To be what he wanted? He laughed bitterly. "You think he just handed me this place?" "He handed me a blueprint I couldn't change. Every mistake I made, he compared to you, even after you were gone." I frowned. "So why didn't you say something?" "Because if I said I wasn't ready, he'd see me as weak. And if I admitted you were better, he'd cut me out." He looked at me fully. "You really loved this place, didn't you?" "I did," I said, "before they made me choose between it and myself." Silence. "Are you going to report me?" he asked. I shook my head. "The report already includes your mistakes. But I didn't call for criminal charges. Just replacement and oversight." He looked relieved. "I'm not here to destroy you," I added, "but I won't protect your shortcuts either." He nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time I stopped taking them." I opened my door. "Don't waste the second chance, Marcus. You won't get another." He didn't follow. Just stood there watching me leave. For once, he looked like a man who'd stopped pretending. I flew back to DC that night, but the story wasn't over yet. What happened next proved I made the right choice. My apartment in Georgetown was small. 1 room, blue couch, bookshelves, a balcony overlooking quiet rooftops. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I poured tea and sat by the window. 6 months had passed since the audit. Marcus had stepped down. A new lead engineer, Dr. Ter Patel, who they'd let quit, came back and rebuilt the security infrastructure. The contract was approved. Safely this time. My father sent one email. "You were right." That was it. No apology, no reconciliation, just acknowledgement. And honestly, that was enough. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. I opened it. A young woman stood there, early 20s, government ID around her neck, nervous. Agent Harrison? I smiled. Just Mara here. She flushed. I'm from the DC Cyber Fellowship. I was told to deliver this personally. She handed me a folder. Inside, an invitation. We would be honored if you would serve as lead mentor for our National Youth Encryption Initiative. I read it twice, then laughed softly. Is this not the right time? She asked nervously. I shook my head. It's perfect. I just didn't expect to be seen this way so soon. Her shoulders relaxed. I read your Geneva paper, she said. It's why I joined this program. You made people like us feel like we belonged. That hit harder than I expected, because I saw myself in her, in the way she stood at my door, unsure if she was welcome. Come in, I said. You shouldn't be walking around DC with classified files and no tea. She smiled and stepped inside. An hour later, after she left, I sat back by the window. No fanfare, no applause, no headline declaring victory. And yet, I felt full, not of pride, of peace. I thought about Marcus, whether he'd rise or fall. I thought about my father, whether he'd finally learn that love can't be conditional. I thought about Kelly, but only for a second. Then I opened my journal and wrote, I didn't come back to reclaim the house. I came back to reclaim myself, and I did. I closed the book. Tomorrow, there'd be new work, new minds to mentor, new systems to protect. But tonight, I let myself be still. No titles, no codes, no battles, just Mara. And that was victory.